This is Sammy. Thank you, Sammy. Yes, you're going to give me some kisses? You just want to touch noses. This is Sammy's roadmap to success. Now, Sammy's a good dog. I don't think he's an aggressive dog at all. I think he's a little bit confused as to what his position is in the family. I think there was a lack of rules. I think also, coincidentally, I think serendipity probably came into it. I think that he might have been, being petted with somebody, and he kind of grumbles like in a non-aggressive way, and somebody might have heard him do that and backed away, and he's like, look what happened when I grumbled. And now he started doing it more and more. Now, it also could be a little bit of jealousy, as I like getting petted. I like getting attention from somebody. And if somebody else is coming, maybe I think that they're going to take that attention away from me or something like that. So basically, yes. Oh, thank you. Now I get the kisses. Yes, thank you, buddy. So basically, we have a lot more videos than I normally have above on my sessions. But basically, we've got one that shows the technique that I would like the kids to use to practice when people are having someone approach him when he's being petted. I want the other video about feeding them. I'd like all the kids to rotate for a month. And so each meal, one of the kids is feeding him by hand. And we're going to touch him. We're going to start down here at his flank. And gradually we're going to get closer and closer until eventually we can be touching him under his chin while he's eating food out of our hand. Then once we get to actually feeding him out of a bowl, we're going to have people approach. And as soon as he gets stiff when he's eating out of his bowl, we're going to stop, walk away. But first, we're going to take note of how far away we are from the bowl. Let's say we're at 10 feet. When he gets stiff, I'm going to walk away, grab a treat, come back and stop at 11 feet, toss the treat in the bowl, and then turn and walk away. Then we're coming from a different angle. Toss the treat from the bowl, walk away. And we might even just have all 4 kids do that. Whoever's not the feeding person. Remember, the feeding person should always eat something in 5 or more bites first before they feed him. But each time we should be able, as we're approaching, we should be able to get a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer until we're just like dropping the treats right in his bowl. And then at that point, you might want to get some canned food and have the kid take a long-handled spoon, scoop some out, hang in there, buddy, and then plop some in there when he's halfway done eating his food. So again, when a human approaches, they're not here to take my stuff, they're here to make my situation better. Now, we have some nieces and nephews who are little kids who come over to visit. And the guardian, because of his behavior, infrequent behavior, but she wants to make sure that he doesn't obviously nip a little child. And so she's been putting him in the kennel. And although that keeps everyone safe, it's very cute. It doesn't help him grow or learn new behavior. So what I recommend the guardian do, get a 4-foot leash, put it around the leg of the couch, the way I showed you off camera, and then attach it to his leash, and then measure it out, and then about a foot beyond that, put a piece of masking tape or painter's tape on the floor. And then make this a game for the nieces and nephews. Have mom or somebody sit down on the couch with the dog in their lap and on the leash that's attached to the couch leg. And then the child comes up, walks up to the line, takes a treat and throws it at the dog, and then turns around, comes back here to this couch, grabs another treat, walks back up and throws it again at the line. The line is a foot away past where he can actually reach, so we know the child is 100% safe. But the whole point of this is not for the dog to lunge at all, for the dog just to see, when little kids approach me, I don't have anything to be fearful of. Matter of fact, I should be enjoying that because they're delivering me the best treats I've ever had. So maybe about 5 or 6 treats each time if there's multiple kids, and have them do it 5, one kid do 5 treats, then go aside, or maybe have a big bowl and have the kids wait in line. They come over here and then they come back and walk up, throw the treat, go around the couch over here, come back, wait in line, and make it a little bit of a fun game for the dog. And again, I would come up with a fun command word for that. Call it the circus, whatever you want to call it, something that's funny. And now you have, we added some structure, we created a fun activity, we've put safeguards in place to make sure everything's good, and we're helping him practice appreciating being approached by little kids. Now, I wouldn't always do it just right there. This layout, like I just described, allows you to do a circuit really easily, but sometimes I would have him tethered there, and sometimes tethered on that couch, and tethered to the kitchen room table and the basement, different rooms, so the kids get practice doing that. And then when we're done doing that, if he can't be supervised, we put him in his kennel or in a safe area so that we don't have any setbacks. We want to make sure we have a positive progress only. You want to go back to licking my hand? You want to lick my face, huh? Okay, not on the lips. All right. Let me see, what else? Feeding him, I think, will go a long ways towards adding a little bit of structure. Let me see, I like the family all to play a little bit hard to get. I saw several times where he was stopping short of them and they were reaching out to pet him, or going to him to pet him. I would like the family to get in the habit of always asking him to come to them. Now, that's another thing we could do is if we don't have any treats handy and another technique, yes, I'm going to tell him about giving you a lot of treats. But if, let's say that I'm petting him, something else, make sure no teeth touch. Any teeth touch, you yelp like that and then freeze. So let's say I'm petting him, and then one of the other kids in the house comes up and approaches, and he gets that stiffness. Well, then they should take a couple steps back, and the person who's petting him should stop, and I'm going to have you call him.
Sammy.
And so Sammy goes to the person that he was previously growling at. And this way, Sammy, instead of the person coming and looked as an infiltrator, he's getting called to them. That puts him in the follower position, and then he gets rewarded for coming to them. He's looking extraordinarily cute. You can pan to him because it's so cute in his dog pet, which we are calling Boston, which we might change the name. But the same technique that I really use for the doorbell is what I used for Boston. And I would get a dog bed in each room that he hangs out in, so that way he has a designated place, and each one should have a designated specific name. Now, for all the kids, we have 5 kids in the house, and so I'd like the guardians to, for all these new commands, have each one of the kids come up with a suggestion as a command word, and then they tell mom and dad during dinner. Mom and dad make the decision of what the word is. I'd also like the guardians, that's even cuter, I'd also like the guardians to take turns training him. Now, each week, maybe on Sunday, one of the kids goes to YouTube, looks up a video, and I'm going to teach him how to play dead, and then shows mom and dad approve it, and then they go and show, and the video will teach you how to do that. And then all week long, we practice play dead all week long. Then at the end of the week, and that kid, whoever's teaching, gets to come up with the command word for that because they're the one teaching the dog. And then the next week, the next child takes over, and they teach him a new command. They've already done a good job of teaching him some commands. Training is different than behavior, but I think the more that the kids are teaching him things, it gives you different ways to redirect him. It's going to also deepen their relationship and help him respect them a little bit more. I also went over my petting with a purpose and passive training philosophy. I think the guardians were petting him a lot of times when they, probably at inopportune times. A good example is when dad came home. The dog was all excited, jumped up, and dad reached down and pet him. Anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're reinforcing. So if Sammy comes up and jumps up on me, I pet on him, and he's excited, I'm rewarding him for being excited. I'm also rewarding him for jumping up on me, and jumping up is a way of claiming me. If it's somebody that just comes through the door. So now I just did 2 things that are kind of going to be confusing for him. So instead, when you guys come home, pretend like he's not even there. Ignore him. And if he jumps up on you, just keep on walking through as if he's not even there. As soon as he starts calling down, reach for him. As soon as you start reaching, he'll start wiggling. Pull your arm back. Don't say no. Don't say a word. Just through your actions, say no. Pull your arm back and continue doing what you're doing. When he comes in, he's kind of calm again. Then start reaching again. It'll be first time, this far, this far, this far. Eventually you start petting and he gets excited, you pull back. I call this light switch on, light switch off. So turn the light switch off the instant he starts doing something you don't want, and turn the light switch on the instant he does something you like. That's like passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to offer a behavior voluntarily and then rewarding it and marking it with a command word within the first 3 seconds of the dog offering the behavior. So every time that Sammy comes to me, I should pet him and say, come. Every time he sits next to me, I pet him and say, sit, crash when he lays down, or whatever it is. And the family should come up with a watchword for this. So if we see somebody, he just came to somebody and you missed it, I can say, reward. And you look at him, and if he's standing there, you assume he came, and pet him and say, come. Or if he's sitting, you pet him and say, sit, or whatever it is. So this way, we're starting to reward him for the desired behaviors as opposed to focusing on correcting him for the wrong behaviors. Speaking of correction, I went over the 4 escalating consequences with the guardians. Make sure you're using those to correct the dog. However, we do not ever use those if he's getting in that stiff or aggressive posture. The more that we meet force with force, the more that he's going to think it's validated and continue doing that. So if he's doing something we don't want, we're going to try to warn him beforehand with the hiss, then stand up, then march towards him and leash time out if you need to. The mom went through all those and she took notes on those. If you have questions on that, let me know. I have videos. I can share the detail of those as well. I'd like the family to practice the door exercise like I mentioned with the doorbell. I have instructions in that video, so follow that. Try it for a week, but really you should keep on doing that until when you ring the doorbell, he automatically goes there no matter where he is in the house. That'll be pretty awesome. Let me see, what else? We'd like to get him enrolled in our puppy class. He's only 7 months, and he's a small guy, and so that socialization will build some confidence, which will help him. One of the kids, are we still going? One of the kids was playing with him a little bit rough, and he was kind of biting at his hand in a playful way, but we just don't want him to practice that at all. So we're going to yelp like a little girl, freeze, and then go back to it. And if he keeps on jumping and he doesn't stop, then get up and stop playing with him and stand up and move away. Let's see what else. We also went over petting with a purpose. So if he comes and nudges me for attention, if I pet him, that's telling him, yes, you're the boss of me. Instead, what I'm going to do is when he nudges me, I'm going to give him a counter order, tell him to sit. When he sits, I'm going to pet him under his chin and say sit. Remember, always pet under the chin whenever possible and say just sit. Not good sit, not Sammy sit, just sit. Also try not to over pronunciate. Maybe we call that, come up with a word for that as well. Pronunciation, if you're saying sit, pronunciation, sit. Let me see. Don't get in a habit of moving around him if he's standing. Walk through him so he gets used to deferring and getting out of the human's way. Make sure we don't let him out of the kennel. Well, that's a kennel exercise. He actually does really good in the kennel, but I like the guardians to practice elongating the delay. So once you open the door, wait for him. If he tries to come out, march right at the door and wait for him to sit at first before you invite him out. And once he starts sitting right away, then sit plus 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 6 seconds, 8 seconds. And you might want to come up with a word that means specifically to come out of the kennel. Call it vacation, freedom, break, whatever you want to call it. And so eventually you can come and open the door and go make a sandwich and just sit down and start eating it, finish eating and say break, and then he comes out of the kennel. That's wonderful self-control. I'd also like the guardians to practice, if they sign them up for our puppy socialization class, our 2-on class, we go over the stay command. And once he knows the stay, we teach the stay for three Ds. First for duration, then for distance, then for distractions. So what I'd like the guardians to do is get up to 5 minutes for duration. Then eventually when we start doing distance, put him in a stay and go get a drink of water and then release him. So we're having him stay but not with us in the same room as us so he can see us but not that far away but not completely alone. And then eventually we want to put him in a stay and go to the bathroom so he can't see us and then we come back. Just the idea is to make that progressively longer. Don't go from 5 minutes to 50 minutes. Go from 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 10 to 12, 14. And if you go from 15 to 20 and at 17 seconds he starts whimpering or he gets up, then back up and practice at 16. Always back up a step. Let me see. I'd like the guardians to practice. Another rule that I forgot to go over. We incorporated some rules. One of the rules, not being allowed in the furniture. X-mats will help with the furniture if he is free. He's kenneled when the guardians are gone. Make sure you're not kenneling him for longer than 4 hours. That can create a negative association. And I'd also have a little thing for the little kids that come and visit. If he goes into his kennel or his dog bed, the nieces and nephews are not allowed to interact with him at all. We want those safe places so he doesn't have to nip. He just goes to this place and I'm safe. Let me see. I'm trying to think. Anything else I'm missing? I'm probably missing a lot. I cover a lot in 3 hours. But please call me or text me if you have any questions on the stuff or if things stop going the right way. The sooner you text me, the sooner I can help you. A lot of people are like, I didn't want to bug you. And then it becomes a tiny thing that was minor becomes a big thing that we really have to set up a follow-up session for. So I think if we get him our puppy class, we're going to teach him those skills and again, teaching him to stay and practice staying. And building in delayed gratification. You can't leave the kennel without you getting the command word. You have to wait for permission to eat your food through the word we came up with in passive training. Another rule, you're not allowed to be in the kitchen when we're cooking food. So we're going to march directly toward him. And you can use the same bacon trick that I talked about preparing for dinner by just preparing a piece of bacon and then simulating like you're cooking. Because when you're cooking, you're paying attention to the ingredients and stirring and all the rest of the stuff. Well, we microwave a piece of bacon, put it on the counter, the dog smells like food, and then we march towards him using that third consequence, marching back behind the boundary. I would say that he shouldn't be off the carpet, when we're cooking in the kitchen. The rest of the time he can be in the kitchen just fine. Let me see. I also went over the chocolate, the ways for the kids to earn chocolate, but I would make that a chit system, but I think that will really help setting up thresholds that the children have to do certain things in order to achieve certain liberties and freedoms in their home. I'd also like to see the guardians, they don't have a fenced-in backyard. The tether can be a little bit restrictive. Please message me if I forget to send you this. But there's temporary fencing you can get. You can get these posts, you put it in, you can get for $50, you can get like a 50-yard roll. It's 3 feet wide and 50 yards long. And you can just run it around from the house and make a little section in the yard. So you can go let him out the door, let him run around and sunbathe and have a good time, and have him come back in and he's safe. He can't get out. Another rule I have is I make the dog sit before I let it in or out of the door. The guardians are doing this, but they're probably repeating the command more than we'd like. So we only want to say the command word once. And if it doesn't do it, then I like to go get the dog. Or set up a situation where we can help him practice where the reward is achieved by doing the action that I want. So I go to the door and I say sit. Now he's inside. He wants to go outside. I'm controlling the door. I decide when he gets to go outside. And I'm asking him to do the smallest thing he can do as a dog, sit. If he doesn't sit, after 3 seconds, I walk away, sit down, turn the TV on, or grab a magazine or read a book for 1 minute. After 1 minute, go back to the door and tell him to sit. If he doesn't sit, walk away for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. And eventually, he'll just go to the door and sit down as his way of saying he'd like to sit, asked to go outside. Now, the guardians I noticed one of the first things I noticed when I came in is they had some jingle bells hanging from the doorknob. It's the most common mistake people make when they're trying to teach their dog to ring a bell to go potty. So what I would do is I would cut off the bottom 3 bells, and then I would have it by the door, and then every time we'd go outside, as soon as he starts to pee or poop, we gently ring the bells the whole duration that he pees or poops. When he gets done, we clamp him, we walk over to him, we pop a treat in his mouth, and as soon as the treat goes in his mouth, we start jingling it again gently until he stops chewing it. So the first time associates the action of elimination with the sound of the bells. The second time associates the sound of the bells with the reward. After a while, he will go ring the bell that's now next to the door, not on the door. If you put it on the door, the dog just thinks that means that's my permission word to come out of the door. I'd like the guardians to come up with a list of fun command words like I talked about earlier, and say vocabulary if we're using the wrong word. We're going to say paycheck if we suspect someone is petting the dog without a purpose. And we're going to say recognize or reward if the dog just did something and we missed an opportunity to pet it. Remember, you have 3 seconds. So if one of our guardians sees that he came to me and says to me, reward. Well, she saw him come to me, that was 1 second. She told me reward, that was 2 seconds. I have now 1 second to start petting him. So I can't ask, what did he do? I just look at him. If he's standing, I pet him and say, come. And you might want to come up with other watchwords like repeat or rerun if you're saying the word over and over again, pronunciation if you're baby talking it, or things along those lines. The last thing I want to talk about is the exercise journal. He's not a super high energy dog, but I think he's probably a little under exercised. I'd like to see him going for like 2 or 3 walks a day. I'd like to see us playing fetch with him in a structured way once or twice a day. He seemed to like chasing the laser. We can also use the stairs. Go up top of the stairs and throw a treat to the bottom of the stairs. When he goes and licks it up, come up with a word that maybe says, basement or first floor or whatever it is. Come up with fun words, and then they come back up to you and say, penthouse. And so then you actually have a command word that means go upstairs, go downstairs. But then you can practice on a really, not a nice day here in the Midwest if it's really icy or it's raining. Instead of taking him for a walk, maybe we do practice the up downs on the stairs. So for the exercise journal, get a spiral notebook, write the date at the top, and write down the time and how long the walk was, the time and how many fetches, the time and how many laser revolutions, the time and how many up downs on the stairs. Go through all those things, and also write down if there is a biting incident, if there is a barking incident, what time he eats food. And then at the end of the day, give him a letter grade, A through F. And then let's say you got a C+. Okay, the next day we're going to add an extra game of fetch, an extra 4 revolutions with the laser, and a couple other things. Now, and keep on playing with the variables until eventually like, wow, that was like an A+ day behavior-wise. And now we know how much exercise he needs to feel more spent. Again, he's not a super high energy breed, so I don't think we need to get him a ton. But increasing his exercise will definitely help. Also, be careful about how long we're keeping him in the kennel. If he develops cortisol in his blood, that's going to make him more agitated for everything. So if we're going to have like the nieces and nephews come over, he shouldn't spend all day in the kennel then. He should probably go to Dogtopia for dog daycare. Or before the nieces and nephews comes over, all the kids take him up for a walk, a 10-minute walk, then he gets to hang out inside for 20 minutes, then another 10-minute walk. And by the time we get done with 5 kids doing that, that's almost an hour's worth of a walk. And he gets a recovery period between, and then when in between each one, and then when the nieces and nephews come over, go ahead and shoot him right there. This is the energy that you'll have when the nieces and nephews are here, which is a lot easier to deal with. All right, anything else I can think of? All right, well, this is Sammy, and this is Sammy's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.